Because of you, there's fascism in our midst and democracy is dead. But it isn't my fault you were told to vote blue, not for Jill Stein or Bernie or for God knows who. There'd have been no Trump, there'd have been no coup if you just accepted Hillary in the first place. Wait a minute, just vote blue, never ask for more, while the rich keep getting richer and the poor stay poor. I don't care who wins 2024, all we get is oligarchy and forever wars.
So it's your fault.
What?
Yeah, it's your fault.
No.
Yes, it is.
Fuck you. Nice try. Wait a minute, any minute now another Supreme Court judge might die.
So it's your fault.
Yes. No, it isn't. You know Roe v. Wade didn't have to, and RBG could have retired in the 2010s.
It's Obama's fault. In that same time frame, he could have codified the ruling in the first place. Oh, then it's his fault.
Whoa. It was his fault.
No.
Yes, we can, my ass.
That sucks.
Wait a minute. If Obama won 2 elections in a row and in 2020 we elected Joe, then where did the Democratic voters go? And it was Hillary.
Misogyny.
What? Yes, some. Well, what about the Bernie Bros? The Bernie Bros.
Bernie Bros.
You voted with the Bernie Bros. I like Medicare for all.
Then it's yours.
No, it isn't, because Hillary was flawed.
It's hers.
No, it isn't.
This is bullshit.
Wait a minute, but the DNC rigged the primary. There was evidence on WikiLeaks for all to see.
Now stop these kids saying feel that burn. Someone call the superdelegates because it's my turn.
See, it's her fault.
Wait, I think it's their fault.
I just want
And Bernie would have won.
Not again.
When he lost, you could have just fallen in line.
It's a zero.
Such a hero voting for Jill Stein. She's the only one speaking up for Palestine. But she's never gonna win in the first place.
Then
I'll just refuse to vote. Refuse to vote. Refuse to vote. I'll watch the empire die. It's about time anyway.
So it's your fault.
Wait a minute. You don't vote for Biden now. If he keeps funding genocide, he's never gonna win in the first place.
Yes,
Yes, he did an
It was
insurrection.
his fault.
Insurrection in the first
January
place.
6th in the first place.
Trump's fault.
Trump's responsible. Trump's the one who had the Trump's fault.
Yeah, so we are joined by the creator of that video, Chris Kerrigan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you made that video on July 4th, I guess, or about mine at the end, and you'd sent that to me at the time, and I really enjoyed it. And then I think I asked you how long that took, and you said just like one day of very very intensive work. But
Yes.
then, like several months later, the Finkelstein Dershowitz the musical came floating through my YouTube algorithm, and it'd been so long since I thought about the Your Fault video. I didn't even connect at first. Right, that it was the same person, but much as Lexi says in the comment, right, the with the ellipses is like stuck in my head forever. We played some of that last time, but we might play some more of it again today, just because like I enjoy that video so much, and this led me to a bunch of these, which are I don't know if the debate breakdowns here have had any impact or not, but there are quite a few adaptations of debates that I've seen, so I've really enjoyed that.
Yes. I've been trying to crank out one per week since roughly like a week before Christmas. It's turned into a thing. Barely made it this last week. Got one in right on Friday, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's watch a recent example. This is Glenn Greenwald versus Bill Maher.
Oh, I think I accidentally didn't upload it. Can we do a replacement while I double check on that?
Okay. While we're looking at that one, this one's a little bit less recent, but it's but it is one of my favorites. So I think this might have even been late last year. I'm not totally sure, but this is Jordan Peterson versus Destiny.
So are you implying that the excess deaths were caused by the vaccine? I don't bloody well know what they were caused by. Okay, but that's what you're implying now. Well, that's... look, if you're going to use Occam's razor, you're kind of stuck in an awkward place here. I am absolutely not. This is the most administered vaccine or inoculation, whatever you want to call it, in the history of all mankind. Every single organization is motivated to call this out if it was a bad thing. You don't think Russia or China would be screaming if Donald Trump or the United States warp sped through a vaccine that was having deleterious effects on populations around the world? You don't think there wouldn't be some academic institution? You don't think there wouldn't be more than a handful of doctors and Joe Rogan and some conservatives saying this vaccine might have been bad? If it was the case that American companies working with companies in Europe and Germany especially, right, because that's where biotech is from, in order to create and manufacture a vaccine that was causing excess deaths around the world. There are so many different people who would be motivated to call this out. How do you are calling it out? A handful of people. Where are the governments? Where are the academic institutions calling it out? Where are the other private companies calling it out? Wouldn't you stand to make a killing if you were a private company in Europe and you could say, hey, look, mRNA vaccines for sure are causing all these issues. Why wouldn't Putin? Why wouldn't Xi Jinping? Why wouldn't anybody else in the world call this out if it was as horrible as
there are plenty of people attempting to call it out.
Incredible, no huge institution.
What do you make of the excess deaths? You haven't come up with a bloody hypothesis.
I don't even know if there are 20% excess deaths in Europe right now. If I had to guess off the top of my head, it's gonna be like you said. One might be lingering effects of an overwhelmed healthcare system. One might be deaths related to the war in Ukraine. Another one might be rising energy costs that for a couple of reasons.
But it's absolutely impossible that any of it could be unintended consequences of a novel technology injected into billions of people.
I think, first of all, there aren't billions of people in Europe, so if there were excess deaths...
I never said there were!
I understand, but you're talking about excess deaths in Europe. I'm not aware of excess deaths occurring in other places that are completely and totally unaccounted for, where the only explanation would be the vaccine. I think if it were, more people would be talking about it!
We have to! Well, first of all, the number of people talking about something is not an indication of the scientific validity of a claim.
I agree with that.
Why are you using mass consensus as the determinative of what constitutes truth?
Because I think
that's never been the case.
Because I think for something that was given to billions and billions of people, if it was something that was having a measurable effect on people, it would be impossible to cover it up and ignore it. We wouldn't have to look at the one case brought up in a documentary.
Well,
we wouldn't have to look at the one thing being talked about.
What do you make of the VAERS data?
VAERS is not the gold standard for determining whether a vaccine is working or not.
Compared to what?
Compared to the actually longitudinal, prospective, randomized, controlled trial studies.
You mean like the ones they should have done to the goddamn vaccine?
Like the ones they did do for the vaccine?
Oh, yes!
And continue to do to this day. That is correct. Yes!
You really think you're in a position to evaluate the scientific credibility of trials for the vaccine, do you?
No, I don't. So I have
what
to
are
trust.
you doing?
I have to trust.
I don't trust them. I've looked at the bloody data.
First of all, you have to trust third parties to some extent when you go.
I don't have to trust third parties.
Of course you do. You do every day. When you turn the keys in your car, you hope the engine doesn't explode. When you're drinking water, you hope that the public water or whatever tapper bottle you got it out of isn't contaminated or poisoned with cholera.
I don't do that as a consequence of consensus.
No, you do. Of course you do.
No, I don't. I do that as a consequence of observing multiple times that when I put the goddamn key in the ignition, the truck started.
How do you know it's going to start the 50th or 100th times? How many times do you have to...
Don't play Hume with me.
I'm not playing Hume.
You know perfectly well why.
You don't know if the denim in those jeans isn't leaking into your bloodstream. To some extent, we have to trust third-party institutions to make determinations.
Except when they use force.
How about when they use force? We trust police officers.
Oh, we do.
Oh, we do.
We on the left trust the police.
To some extent, if someone's breaking
That's why we defund
not only thunder,
them.
but if somebody's breaking into your house, you could be the most defund person in the world. Who are you gonna call? You're gonna call Joe Biden. You're gonna call Obama. You're gonna call the Black Panthers. No, you're gonna call the cops.
Oh my God. As somebody who spent way too much time watching Jordan Peterson's content, and because I've made bad decisions in my life and I need to do some work on myself, I've debated Destiny 3 times.
Right.
Just the extent to which we got the way that both of those guys talk is awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
I was just going to
Sorry.
add on to that somehow, like also reminiscent of Meatloaf in there.
Oh, sure. Yes. I like to think of myself as the thinking man's meatloaf. That's my goal. But yeah, no, I feel I have a part of me that like needs to watch these things or have these things on ever since the YouTube premium where you can just have it in your ears and walk around. And so I felt like, and I guess when it gets to ones like this, like where you get to a Jordan Peterson and a Destiny, it's like there's a level of shame while you're watching it or listening to it. Like, why am I? But it's just sort of the contentiousness of it is so attractive. So I guess this is a way of like, let me spin this into something positive. Yeah, as to feel better about it.
Yeah. And I mean, you definitely did capture, right? Again, we, and sharing the fixation that you're describing is obviously one that I share. I think we did like I think we devoted like 2 Thursdays to breaking down Jordan Peterson Destiny, and
Nice.
And yeah, well, I don't know. It was a decision, good or bad, but you definitely captured like some of the funniest moments of that debate. Certainly, and part of why, like, as somebody who's obviously not a fan, and like, again, you did definitely capture some of the weird ticks that Destiny does in these contexts. Right. But it's still like, you did definitely capture the part of the debate where I was like most feeling for him, right? When he's like sort of trying to explain this sort of basic stuff about like, like it would be impossible to go through life if you weren't to a certain extent, like deferring to specialists on things. And
right. Yes.
That line, don't play Hume with me.
I guess there's like a part of every debate of like what is it, an unstoppable object moves I'm like Vivek earlier. I can't whatever the quote is right there, an immovable object, unstoppable force, where it's just like the essence of each person is just clanging against each other, you know what I mean, of Destiny just pleading with you to see his point. And Jordan, that's such a perfect place for Jordan to be like, well, surely you must do this sane thing, and he gets to take this like rebellious stance of like, oh bloody hell, I don't, and just say I don't,
right,
and kind of have that bluster. It was yeah, it's such a perfect moment there. I have to say also, I unlike, ironically, because I'm part of the show, I actually kind of find a lot of those debates like nails on a chalkboard and struggle to listen, and then this made it so I'm like, oh, okay, like I actually was like kind of nice that I could like listen to this. And it's like, very like really nice chord structures and melodies and
people have said that. I've heard that a few times, that it's like I wasn't able to watch this until it had a melody to it, and now I like absorbed the information better than I could have, which I think is funny. Yeah.
And it's more amusing than auto-tune the news, which
oh sure, yeah.
Like there's thought into this where like auto-tune the news. I mean, I'm not going to say it's thoughtless, but like it wasn't. It was more just kind of reacting to what actually is there, as opposed to trying to like carve something down into like a small musical act.
Yes. And I really do try to use the transcript without any alterations. Like unless it's like absolutely necessary, I got to change like a 2-syllable to a 1-syllable. And I feel bad every time I do it. But I mean, I think it's obvious, probably, I try not to make any heroes or villains of these things, but I think it's obvious to some people where I stand on some of these based on how they're constructed.
Yeah. I mean, like in the, like in the Norm Dershowitz one, it's definitely right. Like, I mean, look, I yes, my sympathies are very clear. We did the breakdown on that. I had Norm on to like talk to him about that debate. I have my long-standing position. I think I explicitly said this the 4 Essays in Palestine event, is that I sort of don't care what bad takes Norm has on anything for the rest of his life. I'll still keep inviting him on the show because, like, I'm so impressed by what he did with Al Dershowitz, you know. But that said, I've got to say, part of what makes Dershowitz Finkelstein the musical so funny is that you have definitely captured some of Norm's, particular way of being in the world, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's just because I'm addicted to that debate. I can't stop watching it. And so it's like I have every flourish of it memorized, which is ridiculous.
I mean, even just kind of the way it's leading, and, that's...
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Well, we do have...
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, we have that. Yeah, do I want to watch
this? Yeah, we do have the one I wanted to play earlier. So this is out of the recent ones, right? Since you've been up in the production schedule, this may be my favorite recent one. This is Glenn Greenwald on Bill Maher, the musical.
It's not our fault what came out of. We didn't go into Egypt. Well, we did. Wound up with the Muslim Brotherhood. Go into Egypt. We were supporting and propping up Mubarak for 30 years. Even as we were cheering for all the Tahrir Square demonstrators, as though we were on their side. It was our government that kept Mubarak in power, just like we've done across the entire Muslim world. I'm just saying. And it's amazing for you to say, well, look at all these Muslims. The minute you give them a little bit of freedom, they go wild and they start to be all violent. How can you be a citizen of the United States, the country that has generated more violence and militarism in the world over the past 5 or 6 decades, and say, look at those people over there, they are incredibly violent. We play a significant role in what has been happening in the Middle East because we've been interfering and dominating that region in order to have access to their oil and protect Israel. I wasn't talking about violence. I was talking about theocracy. That doesn't happen here. Well, that doesn't happen here. But at the same time, Iran isn't invading lots of other countries and occupying them for a decade. Nor are fundamentalist Muslim countries the way the United States is. And so these things are interlinked because we are continuously interfering in that part of the world. And so to say it's all our fault, it's not all our fault. But when you send your military for 6 straight decades into other countries to bomb them, kill their children and women and innocent men, but you know what? That's the prop up dictators. Yeah, you take responsibility for your actions and say, to the extent that that religion goes back 1,000 years before our revolution. So I don't think we can take all the blame. I don't think we should. I think we should take a lot of it. And there's lots of bodies and corpses that have been piled up in the name of Christianity and Judaism as well. Not recently. Have you heard of the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza for the past 50 years? Motivated in part by extremist views of Judaism, or the wars in Europe, or the fact that there were generals in the United States saying that we have to go invade and destroy Iraq, a country of 26 million people, because our God is bigger. Lots of religions, not just Islam, produce violence. Or if I could make just one quick point about Egypt. That's the silly liberal view that all religions are alike, because it makes you feel good. No, it makes you feel good to say our side is better. There's people it makes you feel good to put a crown on your head and say I'm a good person. How do I prove that? You get to ignore the responsibility that your government has for the violence and instability in the world by saying, look, it's that primitive religion over there that's to blame.
I've watched that one. That and the Dershowitz Finkelstein one. I've probably watched like a dozen times each.
I should point out that I figured out a minute after uploading it that I've been reading Tahrir Square as Tahrir Square for 40 years, and it was too late, so I cringe every time I see that.
Well, I was going to say, as far as what you're saying earlier, it is definitely much, much funnier to keep the exact dialogue from the site. I mean, this is definitely like part of the charm of these, but it's not even like, it's that there's, it would be like you could do a version of it that would be much less funny, where you're just kind of like summarizing the argument,
Right.
On form, but like actually having the words for the transcript, I mean, like really like brings out the absurdity, of this so much better.
Right. Yeah, and it kind of removes me from any substantive place in the thing. A lot of people in the comments like to get into they like to adjudicate the thing, and it's like I'm much more interested in the personalities and the. It's just there was somebody very sophisticated being humiliated by somebody unsophisticated who knows more than them. That's the whole Buckley thing. That's what I like.
Was there like I'm curious about the original kind of epiphany. I don't like. Was there a background in like musicals that you liked, where you're like, oh, the conflict that's going on in these debates is kind of similar, or because it works really well, and I'm very ignorant when it comes, much more knowledgeable of debates than musicals. So you could maybe school me in that, but I'm curious where some of that original thought process.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, I did come up in musicals, and I'm an apologist for them. I mean, most of the ones that people see and put on are the bad ones, but I should point out that first one, that cold opening you played, like that one is to the tune of a Sondheim piece from Into the Woods. That's Your Fault from Into the Woods. I think just it's a good way. I like a musical argument, especially when there's overlapping and chiming in. It's fun to do that. And I guess the first time I did it, with Chomsky Buckley, it was a short one, and I had like a modest following on TikTok with my indie folk sad white guy music, and I was just like, nobody is going to care about this, and then I put that up, and everyone was like, I have no one to share this with, and so it's weird how I don't really know what I'm doing, but it's been fun.
I guess the Alberto Gonzalez opera Cincerto was not an influence.
I'm not familiar.
About like 20 years ago, the choir and actually an opera down in like New Zealand took the transcript of the Alberto Gonzalez hearing and turned it into an opera.
Nice.
Because they could only get like the majority of people who were going to be singing it were women. They inverted all the sexes, so all the men were being played by women and vice versa.
Sure.
So, and everybody like yelling at him as like a soprano, and it's really weird. but
nice.
Most of it is just Alberto Gonzalez going, I don't recall.
Right.
I can sort of imagine that. Yeah, I remember people joking at the time that Gonzalez in that hearing sort of said, did everything short of no hablo inglés. So. You were saying that like you thought, okay, nobody's going to watch this, and it's been a nice surprise that lots of people want to watch it. But like it is kind of funny. I was thinking about this. So in a sense, it's like, okay, of course I like these because you keep picking these debates that I've often like spent a lot of time watching and thinking about.
Right.
So I mean, if there's a core audience, I'm in it. But it is also funny that I watched one recently that is actually maybe the first one of these that I've happened to watch that, that's of something where I have not seen the original. And I don't know how many people have. I guess a lot of people did at the time, but I don't know how many people have lately. And I was sort of pleasantly surprised to see that, like, like how much I enjoyed this. Like, some of it is a matter of like being familiar with the personalities, so like it works, even if you haven't seen the source material. But this is a deep cut. This is from the 1992 Democratic primaries. This is Bill Clinton debating Jerry Brown.
Does the question, Governor Brown, of Mr. Clinton's recent problems lead you to believe that he has an electability problem? Yes, I think he's got a big electability problem. Well, what do you think it is? I want to tell you what it is. It was right in the front of the Washington Post today. He is funneling money to his wife's law firm for state business. That's number one. Number two, his wife's law firm is representing clients before the state of Arkansas agencies, his appointees, and one of the keys is the poultry industry, which his wife's law firm represents. And you read in the local Chicago Tribune that 270 miles of Arkansas rivers are polluted with fecal coliform bacteria and are unsafe for humans or fish. So it's not only corruption, it's an environmental disaster, and it's the kind of conflict of interest that is incompatible in the kind of public servant we expect from a president of the United States. It doesn't sound like you could run as his vice president. No, it doesn't. Mr. Clinton, you want to take a swing at all that stuff? I feel sorry for Jerry Brown. I served with him as governor in the late 70s. He asked me to support him for president once. Did you? Of course not. He reinvents himself every year or two. In 1990, he was pleading with courts in California not to impose any limits on contributions. His law firm took $178,000 of taxpayers' money. Taxpayers' money to beat a contribution limit initiative in 1990. So I don't think you can take much of what he says seriously. Let me tell you this. Well, can I interject something? Yeah. This guy just accused you of having someone funnel legal fees to your wife in the poultry and whatever all that was. His wife's law firm. It was in the Washington Post this morning. Don't go back and try to evade it, Bill. You're always trying to attack Mr. Brown. You never answer the question. Mr. Brown, let him answer. Let me tell you something, Jerry. I don't care what you say about me. I knew when Pat Goodell told me what you were gonna say, that you were gonna reinvent yourself, and you were gonna be somebody else's mouthpiece. You would say anything, but you ought to be ashamed of yourself for jumping on my wife. You're not worth being on the same platform as my wife. I'll tell you something, Mr. Clinton. Now wait a minute. Don't try to escape it. I did not. Now, Nader called me this afternoon. He read me the article from the Washington Post. Does that make it true? I was shocked by it because I don't think someone in government should be funneling money to his wife's law firm. Governor Clinton, you were poking your finger at him. He poked it back. It's your turn, Governor Clinton. Go ahead. Jerry comes here with his family wealth and his $1,500 suit and makes a lying accusation about my wife in the Washington Post. That doesn't make it true. Are you saying they're lying? I'm saying I never funneled any money to my wife's law firm. Never. Well, they got $115,000 in bond business from the state of Arkansas. And you just told the other day that when people lose their jobs, you know just who they are. You certainly knew. Can I answer? Your own do I have the right to answer this? This nation is trying to elect a president. This nation is trying to elect a president. Let me answer this critical issue. Obviously, let me answer this. The issue is every time I've ever run for office, because I have been a change agent, because I've worried about the problems of ordinary people, because I've given the kinds of programs that'll change the lives of people. The people that run against me attack me personally. I have not attacked Jerry Brown personally. I have not attacked Paul Tsongas personally. I have not said anything about their character or their history. They have done that to me. That's what everybody I've ever run against has always done. And guess what? And it is a crying shame that because they read the polls in the Chicago paper today, I get this kind of criticism. My wife is a fine person who has not done anything unethical. She has given tens of thousands of free dollars worth of free time to serve in our state. There's no telling what all she's done. Well, I want to. That has nothing to do with the electability issue. In terms of my electability, I have been attacked repeatedly over years and years and years with my people who are discriminating because they know I am a change agent. The only way we can win this election is with somebody who's tough enough to stand up to the kind of garbage the Republicans throw at you. The kind of personal attacks I've been subject to in the last few
days. Wow. I kind of feel like whatever was going on with Hillary and the poultry, I feel like it happened.
Right.
Wait, who is the moderator? But he's just like.
Oh God, I don't know his name. I love him though. He's amazing.
It's like
the poultry, whatever all that was. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually one of the consistently fun things about these is that the moderated ones, the way that you're like also capture the energy of the moderators, like like a Democracy Now debate, just as they're,
right.
Like in that case, you just try to go, okay, so it's gonna have a
right. Yes.
This person had like slight disdain for the entire proceedings. It seemed like, but
right. Like we're gonna really do this. Come on, guys. Yeah.
I think more moderators should be like that.
Yeah, but
right.
I'll give it a poultry or whatever. If you want to respond to whatever he just said.
Also,
he certainly doesn't. He certainly. I mean, he doesn't really answer the poultry thing. I mean, that's when you go through this piece by piece. Setting it to music, it's like, interesting. You didn't really.
He immediately goes to this whole other speech about and then he's like, I never said anything critical like about you personally.
Right. Yeah.
Is that really the case? I don't know.
Yes, he just heard about the critical stuff about him personally.
The $115,000 suit. He's just like slicker.
Yeah. And I guess like this is the first election like I remember as a child, but it's like being more familiar with 2016 and the sort of the Clinton playbook of I'm just so tired of these attacks. I'm so tired of Senator Sanders' attacks. And it's just like, oh, okay, that's how you do it, I guess. The crocodile tears. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'd also say, the poultry stuff, there's So I was just looking at this for something I was writing the other day. There's my favorite Christopher Hitchens book, which is not one that seems to be as well remembered as some of the others, which is No One Left to Lie To, The Triangulations of William Jefferson Clinton, which I like for many reasons, not least that it's like sort of fun to see like Hitchens, who, by the way, I don't think has been on a debate you've covered. That might be fun to see you do your Hitch.
Yes,
but,
not just yet. But I did see the Charlie Rose where he was talking about this Clinton book, though. Yes, and I'm looking for the right Hitchens.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder which one that.
You know, the one where he says, I forget who died, but was like, you know, put it.
Jerry Falwell. When Jerry Falwell
Yes.
died, and he went on Fox News and said that Falwell was so full of shit that if they'd given him an enema, they could have buried him in a matchball.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think you said that to Sean Hannity. That might be an interesting one to see adapted. But
Yes.
so in the Hitchens book, No One Left to Lie To, he does actually talk extensively in there about the Clintons' links to like Tyson and like how that was part of during the workfare programs that were linked to Clinton's welfare reform, that you were like forcing all of these single mothers who'd been on benefits to like go do this often like dirty and dangerous work to like keep their benefits, and some of that stuff got funneled to Tyson Chicken. So I obviously wasn't familiar with the particular example from the 1992 election, although that is probably also the first election that I can remember being like pretty aware of at the time that it was happening.
Yes.
I mean, I would have been 12, and I actually remember seeing. I remember actually. So Bill Clinton came to speak at Michigan State, and my parents took me out of school to go see him, and the only thing that I specifically remember from that Clinton speech was that after it was over, he was like, shaking hands with the people in the crowd, and he seemed to like make this special point of going over and shaking hands with the people who were there with like legalized cannabis signs, which is kind of funny because obviously, not something he acted on as president.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He didn't exhale though.
That's right. That's right. He didn't inhale.
Yeah, he didn't inhale.
No,
exactly.
I got the line mixed up from PCU where they actually took the clip of the Senate asking that, and they have John Favreau, and he's just like, I didn't exhale.
Yeah. So for what it's worth, sticking with Hitchens in his memoir Hitch 22, he says that he does, I guess, defend Clinton on that point, right? He says that, since they overlapped at Oxford, he says it's true that he didn't inhale because he preferred edibles.
Right.
Could you do if you do Hitchens, could you do it in the style of HMS Pinafore?
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I was thinking of. The one he does with George Galloway, like that one's pretty good. That one's lively, but that's a lot of accents. That's a lot of accents.
Yeah. He doesn't use it in that debate, but although it's probably referred to at some point, I'd be surprised if it wasn't as the thing that because like in the sort of WWE level mutual taunting leading up to it, he'd referred to Galloway as a drink sodden ex-Trotskyist Popinjay.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Or no, Galloway had referred to him as drink sodden ex-Trotskyist Popinjay as well. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Which
and like the only case of a butterfly that turned back into a larva or something.
Yeah. I think that one you might actually say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the accents, it's probably also good for this kind of thing too. Like in the, because it's like, okay, so both Bill Clinton and Jordan Peterson have like very mockable accents, and in their own very different ways. And so I think it's probably a good instinct that in both cases you gave that like a relatively light touch, right? Like there was like a,
Sure.
there's like a little, like there were a few points in the one we just watched where you got like a little Southern twang at the edge of
Yeah.
I think it's
A little raspy too.
A little bit. Couldn't keep it up all the way through, but whenever I remembered to, sure.
Well, I think it might actually be funnier if it's just like not like the sort of persistent thing. It's just every once in a while there's like a little, the same thing with Peterson, who.
Well, that lends itself. I mean, anytime you do like a fake opera voice, it's like so easy to, it lends itself to singing very well.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking HMS Pinafore 2 would allow you to sound British, but without having to do the accent, because there's something very, very, British the way the songs are written. So
that's right. Yeah,
it's been a while since I've actually seen it, but like I watch Star Trek a lot, so
Nice.
how it comes up a lot.
Yeah, fair enough. So. I did see one important criticism of Peterson and Destiny in the chat, though, which is that the suit you were wearing was much too normal. Now maybe
I know. I almost went to the thrift store and tried to come close to that thing. I don't know. Yeah. I wore my most garish ensemble that I could find.
Do you have a Patreon or something? You might need to crowdfund some of the wardrobe.
I know, right? That's right. I don't have a. Yeah, I'm practically nobody. I have no infrastructure to be paid.
Well, you're talking to some serious players in the.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean,
Nice.
I got a good friend of mine from college who does heavy metal music, and during the pandemic, he just started doing anime covers in this, in heavy metal style. And
nice.
He's got this massive Patreon now, and like is well known now for doing these like insane covers, like the Pokemon theme song, like as black metal.
Well, this is this show definitely does not have a massive Patreon. This is pretty niche, but if just thinking about the way that we've promoted it over the years, if I were in your shoes, I would definitely, and I started one. Right, I would definitely emphasize that you need the money to buy the Riddler outfits for future portrayals of Peterson.
Yes, and he'll be back. I got a couple lined up with him. He's going to be recurring, as it turns out. Yeah.
Right. Get the do like a Peterson Dawkins maybe something like that. That's
Oh yeah, that recent one. Jesus Christ! Yeah.
Oh my God!
As someone in the comments suggested, there was a little similar energy. Well, it was interesting how the energy actually sort of got reversed, because he's pleading with Dawkins, kind of like Destiny was pleading with him, but he's pleading with him about acknowledging that dragons exist, even if they don't materially exist. Right? He's like,
yeah.
And Dawkins just doesn't.
Could you make a Imagine Dragons reference while doing that?
Maybe. I don't know. I think that one for me crossed over from love to hate into like, this is unpleasant. Like trying to watch that thing, like I was just like, oh God, this is too frustrating to be entertaining.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we did about half of it last time, but before I let you go, just because it's so good and I really can't watch it too many times, can we wrap up on Dershowitz Finkelstein?
Let's do it.
Dershowitz has concocted a fraud, which amazingly, in large parts, he plagiarized from another fraud. I found that pretty shocking. I found it shocking coming from a Harvard professor. I find it shocking coming from any professor. Now we have to cut off at one point. I just want to warn everybody here that though I'm not a litigious person, When you make allegations
I'm
of
prepared to support
plagiarism,
them.
that's a technical
I
term
agree.
which has great legal
I agree.
implications, and I can't obviously
You shouldn't.
sit quietly by
You shouldn't.
and accept an
Let's
allegation.
look at the evidence.
Who is the plagiarism from?
Okay, let's look at the evidence. In the first 2 chapters of your book, you extensively reproduce all of Joan Peters' pages in her book. I read it carefully in 1984.
Show me one sentence.
I'm gonna show you.
Show me one sentence.
I am gonna
that
show you.
parallels.
I think I made available the charts
No,
to
you
you.
showed me nothing. Let's start with that. That's a categorical lie. What you're hearing now on radio is a
Mr.
claim that
Dershowitz.
Mr. Finkelstein made available to
No, I
me
never said
certain
that.
charts. That is a categorical lie.
No, he said to me. Oh, Mr. Dershowitz, I think you had about 5 minutes time. I wasn't looking at the clock. If we're going to have a
Well, it's not going to be a debate about me. Let me be very clear about that.
I'm not debating you. I have no interest in you, Mr. Dershowitz. None at all. I'm interested in the scholarship. I'm interested in the facts. And I'm interested in your book. Now, in 1984, one Joan Peters published a book called From Time Immemorial. The book was universally recognized by serious scholars to be a fraud. Without wanting to toot my own horn, I'm universally recognized as the person who exposed the fraud. I know that book inside out. I read it at least 4 times, and I went through all 1,854 footnotes. I started to read your book, Mr. Dershowitz. I then came to chapter 1, footnote 10, footnote 11, footnote 12, footnote 13, footnote 14, footnote 15, footnote 16. All of the quotes are from Joan Peters. They are so from Joan Peters that you have a long quote here from Mark Twain on page 23 and 24. I turn to Joan Peters, page 159 to 160, the identical quote from Twain with the ellipses.
Is it wrong? Is the quote wrong? Wait, let me ask you. Is the Twain...
the ellipses.
Is the Twain quote
Let
wrong?
me finish, sir.
No, but the key is the Twain...
With the ellipses in the same places. The identical quote from Twain. With the ellipses in the same places.
It's been widely quoted, as you know.
Yeah, really, Mr. Dershowitz.
Well, what's your point? Is it a direct
Let me
quote?
finish, Mr. Dershowitz.
No, let me ask you a
have to
question.
let
Is
me
it a
finish.
direct?
We then
Is
have
it
a
an
quote.
accurate quote?
you
of
have
Mr.
to
Dershowitz?
The way we can have a civilized discussion here is that each person will get a chance to make their point and won't be cut off.
Oh, I'm not a litigious person.
Right. Yeah. Of course not.
The toot my
Famously not a litigious person, yes.
not to toot my own horn always kills me too. I'm the one who exposed the fraud.
Yeah.
He must have been feeling himself so hard in that moment. So funny.
Yes.
Yeah, well, totally right. I mean, this is the bizarre, distinctive charm of Norm, right? That like that he just does a fanatical amount of like research homework, like to a point that's like deeply weird to do. Like that's
Yes.
it's like every single footnote, he's been over 10 times, and he's like looked at everything in every footnote, and like it's I had Norm on the show. When would this have been? Like when they did the Supreme Court decision about affirmative action. This is like whatever that was, something like summer before last, maybe, and it was, and he apologized at the beginning because he hadn't had a chance to finish his second read through of the Supreme Court decision and all of the dissents. Right, he'd only had a chance to read them once, and then he was like halfway through his second time back around. Right, It's like this is so like kind of the amount of emotional weight that's going to be put on some of that.
Yeah, but then some things I feel like he would just dismiss with like one sentence, like an entire like human's life, just like that person. But I don't know. Yeah, weirdly specific about some things, and then just like flirt. But I don't know. Maybe he's done the same exact amount of research for everything. Yeah, and definitely.
I think there are certain things that get under his skin, and he feels like he needs to like just research the fuck out of them to like say, what he wants to say about them, and it is pretty specific.
But yeah, I mean, you can't just say that like wokeness is like ridiculous. Like, I mean, you can, but I mean, that's not something you can like research every footnote of wokeness and
yeah. I mean, clearly there's so much bigger judgments going on. I mean, he's not just like confining himself to things that
that's the charm.
300 hours in the library on, which would be like kind of impossible to like go through life as a commentator and do that. But yes, it is amazing when he does, when he does do something. Are any of these? Yeah, it's somebody asked in the comments, if which of these guys it was harder to inhabit.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, yeah, again, on that one, I just have a weird compulsion to watch it over and over and over again. So I don't know. I guess I do try to crank these out once a week. So it's hard to, I mean, when somebody's as careful with their words as Norm is, it's easier to like quickly memorize it. Whereas the Destiny thing was tricky and it didn't sync up all the time. Somebody did ask if Norm has seen it. Whoever's behind the wheel at his Twitter didn't tweet it out when I put it out. So I don't know if he's personally seen it, but the Twitter version of him approves apparently.
I could see some people being a little easier to create melodies, like Norm and, and Jordan Peterson. Destiny, it's more of that like monotone, like
chaos energy too.
Yeah, yes. Rapid fire verbiage coming out. Where you're right, Norm does that like, which I think is also kind of like he's from Brooklyn, right? It's a Jewish dialect where you hyper enunciate all of like certain syllables, right? And then he has a bit of like a musical up and down too. But I mean,
and he's a waltz. He's got a little waltz. So yeah, I'm getting some recurring themes here. Bill Maher's got his thing. Norm's got his thing now. So when these people meet, they'll have
Yeah. And it didn't even.
Greenwald is just so measured too, and that especially in that where he's just like so in a relaxed way, just intense. Maybe relaxed isn't the right word, but he's so measured and intense. And Bill Maher,
with the information is intense, but he's just
it's delivered in a very like sort of almost like it's passionate, but it's like sort of almost matter of fact in a weird way, right? That but like you definitely captured the way that Glenn will.
Their rhythms,
the just the volcano of like that's like he really knows. He's got you right. He'll just keep piling things on and on and on. This was so much fucking fun. Where can people find more of them?
Yeah. Oh yeah, well, Compassion Fatigue is the name of my little project here, my one-man band on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Also, got like 5 albums on Spotify and Apple Music that sound nothing like any of this, but those are also there.
Nice. Definitely check all that out. Really hope, as people were saying in the chat, that we get Zizek Peterson at some point in the future. That'd be amazing. I do understand there's a lot of accent would be going on in that.
That's what you do, yeah.
A lot of saliva. You're gonna have to clean off different surfaces.
That's right.
After doing the Zizek musical, but it could be worth it.
Definitely. Yeah, a lot of sniffing, inward sniffing too.
You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive postgames on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.